Alright, y'all. I thought I'd do a video on the tear down and clean restoration I do on one of these machines. This one I believe is working fine. I really haven't gone through it yet. It needs a new ribbon. I'm going to keep that in for the next owner though, because the metal reels, all the new ones come with plastic. Oh, I love that fucking ding. The ding and the ratchet. I may actually leave this ribbon on it because there's still got some life in it. The new owner might appreciate it, actually. This one definitely needs a good clean. I kind of got a hokey camera set up here, so it's kind of hard to see. I hate to move it around though, get it out of focus because I spend so much time getting my GoPro set up here. But I love starting with machines that work, they just need cleaning. A little bit of love. And you know, for the sake of any other professional typewriter restoration folks out there, I didn't take no class, nobody showed me any of this shit. I just originally bought a typewriter, what I call my war machine, from 1943 to write my short stories on. And I wanted to have another machine for parts. When I got it, I bought it as parts, but when I got it, it just needed cleaned and, you know, put back into service. So, you know, I couldn't just let it sit around and not restore it. So I did, and I sold it to a woman that was ecstatic to have it. She put it in her office next to her little telephone and her little Tiffany lamp, which I thought was fucking fantastic. So I had to go out and buy myself a little old telephone. Mine's actually from 1935. But my war machine is identical to this. This one's got serial number 1152926. My serial number is 1163538. So mine's a little bit older than this one. But they both have about the same amount of wear from 1943. So they were manufactured for the government or one of her contractors, because the government mandated that all typewriter sales, manufacture, service cease in 1942 unless it supported the war effort. So that's why I like to call these machines war machines. Excuse me. Because it's helped fight fascism. And I'm hoping that these machines will continue to do so, because, you know, it's become a problem again, unfortunately. But that's neither here nor there. This video is about typewriter restoration. So usually what I do is, first is, you know, take the ribbon out, give it a good check over, make sure everything's working, try to figure out what's wrong with it, if anything. But they always need a good cleaning. They're always just like filthy. As soon as I take all the plates off, get it inside of it, get the covers off of it, you see just how much gunk and crap is built up into it. You know, it's pretty clearly evident, all the gunk here from the ribbon that's built up on these vibrators. I'm sure you can see that or not, but it's pretty gross. Some of this stuff is wear and tear. You know, some of the stuff will come off of it, some of it won't. You know, like where the chrome is actually worn off of these. You know, that's patina. That's just how it is. There's nothing I can do about that besides re-chroming it. And to me, I think that detracts from the beautiful patina and the age on these machines. And if you look at it, it's filthy. I mean, I use alcohol to clean them up, just isopropyl. I try not to get too much because it will start eating into the finish, and it will definitely eat into the plastic on the decals. So what I try to do is just use some of the alcohol to wipe it all down. This is usually my last step, but since I started talking about it, I thought I'd show you. Wipe it down, get the grime, the crud, the gross stuff off of it, to where you can actually see, you know, the original crackle finish that they put on these, which I just love. Huge fan of these crackle finishes. But you'll notice a huge difference on this machine from when I start on it to when I finish it. But this one's actually in really good shape. Somebody's taking care of this machine. It's got a lot of miles on it, you can see, but still got a lot of life in it. Got a handful of tools that I like to keep handy. And pliers, a couple of screwdrivers. And just for the sake of argument here, like I said, I think I said earlier that nobody taught me this shit. I just found that typewriter that I wanted to write from my stories. And I cleaned it up, put it back in, made sure it was good for service. And that parts machine I put back into service. Sold it to that woman, which made me just as happy as it did her. But I've been taking shit apart since I was a little kid, and you know, it wasn't until I was about 12 that I figured out how to start putting it back together again. But you know, it gave me the ability to see things, understand how they come apart, and then get a systematic process for taking them apart so I can put them back together in that same order. Sorry, my screwdriver's like, I think I was using it to pound on something. Mushroomed it out a bit. But in saying all this, you know, I'm no master typewriter, never took no classes, nobody showed me no shit. I figured out how to do this on my own, so, you know, if you want to go in the comments and tear me apart for the way I do something, go right on ahead, because I'm just going to keep fucking doing it the way I know that it works. And you see, I like to keep these little cups, numbered cups here, to try to keep a systematic approach to the teardown. That way I can remember, you know, backwards how it all goes back together. And you know, a lot of these screws they're all fucking straight flatheads, which is fun. But that's just how they did it back in the day. But a lot of them are the same diameter, they're just different lengths. Or the same length, but just different diameter. So I try to do my best to keep track of which ones came out of where. And then I always try to put the best looking ones, you know, in places where because you can see somebody's taken these off before and kind of chewed some of these screws up. There's nothing I can do about that. You know, I'm not going to repaint them. To me, that takes away from the restoration. So, yeah, I even do it to myself. Using the wrong screwdriver sometimes. Just how it goes, I guess. But, you know, that's some of the fun with the straight flathead screws. And I like this turntable here, because it makes working on this thing a lot easier for me. And then, you know, because it wants to swivel, I'll jam this thing into it when I'm working on a certain spot. It kind of keeps a little bit of pressure on it, so I can push on it with, you know, some screws, and it's not just swirling around on me the whole time. But having the carousel really does help. I have to grind that one some more. You I usually use these 2 screwdrivers, but I also have another one, a set of the bits. I don't know if it's 3/16 or 1/8 inch. Usually keep it with my electrical shit. But I can use these to get a little bit more torque. And I got a little bit, different sizes on the flatheads there too, so I'll bust that one out occasionally. But primarily these 2 screwdrivers are what I do most of my work with. I'm kind of upset at myself for messing this one up. This one's a workhorse. But I fell in love with these typewriters. Once I started restoring, I did that parts machine. I thought I'll buy some more parts machines. And it took the one that my war machine that long, weeks to arrive at my house. So I went through other typewriters, repairing them and selling them by the time my machine actually arrived. So I wasn't even sure if it needed any kind of parts or anything. Luckily it didn't, it just needed good cleaning and oiling. And I was, doing really well flipping those typewriters. I mean, it's not like I was making a lot of money, but I was helping putting my food on my table. And it seemed, once tariffs started flying, people stopped spending money on shit like this. I got them for sale on eBay, I got them for sale on my website. And nobody's buying them anywhere. And I'm not going to discount them, lose money on them, because shipping is really what costs these things, because they're steel, so it's heavy as shit. One thing of note, I usually end up gluing these felts back in, because they fall down. They're in there to help quiet the mechanisms down a little bit. That's why they call it the Quiet Deluxe, because it's got felt in there. Sound buffering. And this one comes out a lot. And I actually had it come out on a machine that I sent my sister's daughter-in-law. I don't know how that relates to me right now, but I sent her a machine, and this felt pad came out on shipping and got in the way of all the keys down there. And she's like, well, the keys stick. Well, when my sister brought it back in her suitcase, and it was just that stupid felt pad that was in the way. So I make a point to glue them down to make sure that they're glued firmly in place now, because I don't want to send anybody a machine that doesn't work in any way. So I got the top cover off, and I take these cups out. And these have tiny little screws. But I usually take them apart and then clean everything as I put it back together. So these cups, these are really good shape. Actually, the paint still shows really well in this one. Somebody's taking care of this machine. So it really just needs to be wiped down, vacuumed out. But as I get deeper into it, you see more of the gunk and the grime that's built up on these machines. And it's paper. Paper's fibrous, especially when you're using cotton paper, that kind of stuff, like I like to. And then just dust, with it sitting someplace, collecting dust. I don't know about where you guys live, but I live in San Diego, and this place is dusty as shit, because it's usually dry. And then we get, kind of moisture that flows in the morning, which makes everything wet. So you get dust blowing over everything that's kind of moist in the morning, and just makes things a mess. But you can see the crud that's coming out of these. I think I'll leave that until I get a little bit further. You know what, I'm going to just do it now. This part's always fun to take apart. But, you know, I haven't met anyone else that repairs typewriters. I know a lot of enthusiasts that like to use them or like to collect them. But I don't know anybody else that actually does repair, so it's not like I can kind of, you know, trade stories or techniques or any kind of bounce anything shit off anybody. I'm just doing this on my own. And, you know, I looked around for videos and stuff, and didn't find a whole lot. I found an old army manual from the war era about tearing typewriters apart. It was just kind of an overview of typewriters. It wasn't specific to anything, which kind of helped a little bit, but it didn't help on this specific model. Damn it. So I always run into one of those screws that wants to be a pain. You know, and they've been in there for like 70 years, so. Well, this one probably has. Well, maybe. There you go. But to me, this shit is therapy. This struggle that I have, using my brain to overcome them, trying to find something creative to accomplish my goal, that's fucking therapy to me, man. I'd rather do this than sit on a goddamn computer all day. In fact, I'm kind of over sitting on fucking computers all day, to be honest. You know, if you don't know me, I'm a network security engineer by trade. And, you know, cybersecurity, information security is a fucking minefield. And it gets kind of old fucking around with those people after a while, to be honest. Especially the holier than thous out there trying to be like good people when they're actually not. These are like little lead spacers. They're not on every model. I find them occasionally. I don't know why they put them in there on certain ones, because mine doesn't have them. My little war machine. It's you know, like I said, it's a little bit older than this one because this one's 115 and mine's 116. So, you know, there's always slight differences that I find in between the years, even though all the models from 1941 to 1947 are quote identical. There are subtle differences in them. You can see how gross this stuff gets from, you know, just from the ribbon over the years. And you can see all this lovely dust, I call it dust, fuzz, pieces of paper and whatever's falling down in there that never escapes. And then, you know, I bought this little vacuum cleaner, USB. Works really well. You can see I haven't emptied it out from my last typewriter restore, but it gets into stuff. And, you know, I put this on it because it was blowing in my face, because it's meant to blow and vacuum replaces like cans of air and shit. I'm going to consider that for the outer case. So I usually do. I've got kind of a mindset how I consider, you know, this stuff trim as part of the outer case, so I try to keep that along with those sets of screws. I don't know if you can hear it or not, but I'm listening to the Formula One race, the Austrian Grand Prix from this year. I'm not sure how long ago it was, since I don't have live TV anymore. I can't keep up with it. And, you know, affording a Formula One like subscription, which I would love to get all those in-car cams and shit, I just can't afford that. So, but I do love Formula One. The technology is what really draws me to it. I wish they'd get some more women in there, though. Get some women in there. Haven't had a woman driver yet. Waiting on that. Kind of got tired of you know, tweeting about it when I was on Twitter before I left Twitter. Now this is always a fun part, getting this shell off. I always struggle with this, especially on a machine that's never had it taken off before. I don't know if you can see the screws, just a handful of screws on it. A few on the back. But it's all one piece. So you'll see when I get these screws out of it how I have to fight it to get it off. And then it looks like a vastly different machine without its cover for sure. Part of the fun, I think. And I also have my windows open. My office here overlooks the pool in my apartment building. So I can't guarantee that we won't get people like yelling and cheering, whatever. Tends to be pool parties out there in the daytime in the summer. And I quit drinking, which was good for everybody. So I try to avoid that kind of shit when I'm all by myself now. You know, it's just not fun being around a bunch of drunk people when you're not drunk. If I'm with a group of people and I'm celebrating, it's a different story, but to go into a situation like that is less than pleasant for me nowadays. I got 8 hours on this SD card. Let's see if we can do this in 8 hours or less. I don't think I'm going to do it all in one sitting. Probably get up and take a break here in a little bit. Yeah, so this one's never had its cover off, so it's going to fight me. Maybe you gotta come off for me. There's always crap in here. It's usually spiders that I find inside these things. I found a pencil inside one once, an ink pen in one. Nothing really else of value, but the fact that the ink pen was ancient, from like the 40s or 50s, and same thing with that pencil. I kept hold of them, and I keep them in my box in there for my war machine. Because these portable machines come with a little case, carry case, as did this one. And you see how I'm kind of fighting these bits in and out. But you know, this ribbon selector and then the direction selector and then the ribbon color selector, I don't take those off typically unless I have to. And that's another good point with these machines. I only tear them down as far as necessary to where I can get into them, clean them, oil them, check them over, replace any of the crap that needs to be replaced in them. You know, I've had some that had broken H keys, had one that had a broken 6 key. It was actually just the lever. If you can see the levers in there was broken. So I was able to take parts off of other parts machines, which I do have parts machines. I bought them as such. And they really truly are parts machines because they're just so rusted out. There's no way that I could possibly put them back into service. So they sacrifice for these lovely other machines here that need screws or springs or H keys. But you see how I fight this cover off of this thing. I haven't found a video or anything yet that has anybody else that's gotten it any easier to get them off. So I usually end up having to stretch them out a little bit to get them, and then I can come off. And you see the felt that's supposed to be glued to the side here is actually bonded itself to the side of that typewriter. So peel it off, and I'll end up gluing that back on when I clean it up and restore it, or before I put it back together. Its case is here. It's a pretty little case. I usually try to put the big pieces inside of it. Keep them out of my way until I'm ready to clean them and put them back. As you can see, we're down to the bare mechanics of this machine mostly. And the funny thing is that These machines didn't change a whole lot over the years. I redid one from 1974, my birth year, and gave it to my son. And it's very similar inside. The ones from the 50s are very similar inside. It's just that the bodywork, what I like to call the bodywork, the shell that they put on it, that's really changed for the most part, with some subtle differences, of course. But for the most part, the mechanism, the levers, the linkages, it's pretty damn similar over the years. And of course, why wouldn't it be? If it's not broken, don't fix it. But you know, of course, they had to change to that 50s style during the 50s to try to sell typewriters. That, what do they call this, streamline look that was so popular. But now I can get in here and I can clean this crap. I can oil it. I usually take brushes. You can see I'm beating the crap out of them, and just, you know, get down in here in the presence of a vacuum. I would be doing that in a little bit to clean, you know, some of this shit out of it. And then it's amazing how much I get off of my carousel here once I'm done cleaning one of these machines. And you know, my thinking is once I've cleaned and oiled a machine, you know, these things have been here for 70 years or more. I'm hoping to see somebody get another 70 years out of it, right? No reason these things should sit in a garage. They still have a lot to say, is what I like to say. And we'll do this in stages. I'll do a teardown, and we'll do a cleaning and oiling, and then we'll do a reassembly. Because that'll be easier for me to edit this video with that crappy. I end up using iVideo or whatever the fuck it is, iMovie, to stitch all the 15-minute videos from the GoPro together, and then upload it to YouTube. Because I didn't care for the GoPro software itself. It didn't seem to work as well for me as the iMovie did, as terrible as iMovie is. I'm sure if you got another free software for somebody that's as poor as I am, that would be helpful. But you know, of course, everybody's got suggestions about what's great out there if you can afford it. So if you've got suggestions on editing software for movies where I can stitch all my GoPro videos together and not have to use iMovie or the GoPro shit itself, please leave them in the comments. I'd appreciate it. You see more off the back here. I'm so pleased with how clean this machine is. I have to send another thank you to the person that gifted this machine to me. They gifted it with the only stipulation that it find a good home. So I'm going to make sure it does. But I'm going to get her back into full working order and make sure she's nice and clean before that. And I've got just the home in mind for it. I typically don't take the carriage itself off, because this carriage, getting these little ball bearings with teeth, the bearings that it rides on, is a tricky bit. It's the trickiest bit that I do with these typewriters, is putting this carriage back together to where it sits evenly, where the ball bearings are right where they should be, about here. Because when it rolls, they move, they shift position. So, you know, if you get it wrong, they would roll right out of the back and fall off. Or it's tippy. It's not balanced. You don't have them set in the right place to actually carry the weight or distribute the center of gravity. these out. And I like to keep my screwdrivers magnetic. They lose it over time. So I use a hard drive magnet. Big fan of hard drive magnets. Charge it up. Makes it quite a bit more magnetic for a while. I use hard drive magnets for everything. I like gluing them to things, and then I can have a permanent magnet to stick it to something. Because, as I said before, I like tearing shit up. Been doing it since I was a kid. And hard drives, taking hard drives apart to destroy them to make sure that there's no data recovery available on it, but also to recover the magnets. And a lot of times I'll have problems with this mechanism here, with it not feeding the paper properly, or wanting to twist the paper, grabbing one side. So, like every challenge that I come across on one of these machines, I figure out some way to overcome it. I just fuck with it until I get it right. And like I said, that bearing thing, I don't know what you call those, bearings with little tooth gears on them. That was my greatest so far challenge. Another challenge that I always struggle with are these little springs here. It's not terrible, but it's not a fun process, so I don't take it off if I don't have to. But I'll definitely pull the rollers out. Now you can see I can get into this mechanism here and clean it. And you see the ratchet mechanism here. The backspace is always fun. That is probably my second biggest challenge, is getting backspace working if it's not. A lot of times it's just an adjustment in there, but sometimes it's because pieces are broken or missing, which means I have to lean on one of my parts machines for it. But I don't know that I have to go down much further with this machine, to be honest with you. I think she's about ready to be cleaned. So maybe I'll stop this video and the tear down, because we're down as far as I'm going to go with her. I can clean her. And then the next video is going to be me cleaning her and oiling her. And then the video after that will be reassembly. And I guess my camera falling off here is indication that it's time for a pause. So thanks for watching. Leave comments. Stay tuned, y'all.